Alright, welcome back everybody. So we got another update for L322 Range Rover lift kit. With the full kit in front of me, we have front spacers and then rear spacers, and also have a set of lift rods as well. So when you buy the kit with me, you can also additionally opt out to get lift rods if you like them. Looking a closer look at this for the front ones, construction wise, some of the updates that we got here going on is the rears are tapered now to improve the air spring. Specifically when it comes out, the bellow has the seat in it, and it creates an extreme angle kind of like that, which caused some blowouts at the Baja specifically, at the customer whose console was having issues. This was the fix for that. And Rubicon is the other one where that happened, and this part got tested on the angle, hasn't been a problem since. So that is the fix for that. Now, and the initial fix for that was to limit the rear travel. Now, since we got this figured out, I have brought back the travel by doing the top of the shock spacers on the mounts. These are 1.5 inch spacers, and we're still using internal 1-inch bump stop. The reason I'm not going full 2.5 is, again, we already limited the stress of the airbag seats. No need to push it any further. It's just not worth the hassle. And that's just the unfortunate design of the way it's set up. And of course, with everything that you get here, you get all the hardware you need to get the eccentric bolts adjustment. You'll get the bushings for the lift rods. You get all the thicker, bigger bolt for your air springs, and you get your nuts that you need, to assemble this all together. If you have coil springs in the rear, you will need to figure out a longer bolt that you will need, as this is just spec for the air spring. That's what the majority of my customers are. And with the coil spring conversions, I do know you guys do come and buy these kits from me. That being said, I'm sure if we're looking for the kit, you realize there's probably 20 different brands of coil spring conversions. Because of that, I don't know what they're using for hardware. Now let's get a closer look at the construction of this kit and see what makes it tick. Alright, we're going to take a look here at the raw product before we weld all of this together, so you know kind of how it goes together and what it's all involved here. One of the reasons I'm doing it is, some of you are aware, I am a pioneer in lift kits for the Range Rover, or this L322 body style. And I always make updates as needed for some of the customer feedback, mainly, due to the complications that we face with the air suspension that it has, and the choices of the components that they made to assemble it. And this also kind of brings me in as why my kit is a bit more expensive than others. We're gonna dive right into that, and that be the front suspension. So the front that Lauren was using is a McPherson strut. I have one right here. So here it is, they're laying on the table. Now this whole guy, it's a bit more complicated. It looks simple because it simplifies the design, but it's more complicated because of what all it's doing. We have a spring, air, coil element, we have a shock absorber, and on top of that, we have a whole lower control arm that does the load carry. This whole guy, because it's McPherson, we have the locating the mount up top here that spins. And the internals, the way they're set up, there is a bearing, a bushing style bearing. That's why the body is so thick. It's not because you have that much oil flow per se, that big of a piston. It's a lot of it has to do with taking up space for the bushing inside to keep this from, well, folding itself, bending. Here's for the example is a lower control arm. And this is from my truck, and that's literally what you would have. You would have this and just a strut on a normal double A-arm front suspension, independent suspension. Here, we combine all of that to this one item, meaning the strut itself faces a lot of different forces from different directions. It's not just compression. So here I got a set of the front spacers for the struts. Now again, as I mentioned, it's a combination of whole essentially suspension, because the two control arms that we have in the bottom of the knuckle, they're just guiding joints. They're like an upper control arm on the truck. Only thing it does is guide the knuckle, basically give it a pivot point and just alignment. It doesn't do anything else. The whole strut carries the weight, carries the load, takes all the forces, takes all absorption. Meaning some of the cheaper kits, what they use is basically what you see here. And they use a double A-arm style spacer where nothing's triangulated. You just have some posts that they're just free floating, and they weld them together, which seems sturdy. So let me show you what's happening. That's the reality of it is. There's nothing keeping it from twisting, sliding side to side, nothing like that. Here's my kit right here. None of this is moving. Like there is no folding, no twisting. Why? I didn't even weld it yet. But it's triangulated. I have full 3 plates everywhere, and I didn't even weld this. And of course, as you can see here, I have mechanical locks. I did the slots in them, and all of this has slots in it to give a mechanical lock extra strength, extra precaution, so we're not just solely reliant on the weld. We have a mechanically making contact, kind of like a bolt and nut type of situation. This is why my kits cost more. They're built stronger, they're built properly for the application. All right, now you got this kit in your hand, you want to know how to install it. So let's get a little quick guide. Basics, you will need to do alignment, just to get ready for that, be aware of that. Next, we'll need to get the front suspension up and out. You will need to take the rear suspension more or less apart as well. And all that includes the front struts out, rear shocks out, and rear springs out. Front is very simple. Again, replace that bolt for a strut. Goes right on top. And you torque down your nuts. Well, you'll use your stock nuts. These are actually the same thing as your stock airspring OEM ones. Just the same thread. But with that said, we have coil spring conversion or in the aftermarket airbag, there will be a thread difference. You'll tighten this down. This goes back up inside of the body, and then on the bottom of the strut, you'll install the camber bolts. And now that we have the strut back inside, we're going to put the new camber adjustment bolt back up in here. So this guy, these 2 bolts here for the strut to the knuckle, we're reusing the bottom one, we're not reusing the top one. That's where the camber bolt's going to come in. Here they are. So the way you want to put them in is you want to put this tab towards the inside, because we will need to be adding, it's going to look like that, because we are going to add more negative camber, because when you lift it, it loses negative camber, a little stumble there, and means you can be adding it, and that's going to be the issue we're going to be doing. And that will also help us have better tire wear and better stability. Last step before the strut goes in, we're going to shave this ear off carefully, just so we have better clearance between the axle and the strut when it's at full extension, and mainly when you're like lock to lock at the full extension of the wheel. Now for the rear. So this is the rear. Air spring installation as previous, stayed the same. One thing we updated, as I mentioned, this is the original set screw, and we're changing that out to this big bolt. You can see the difference, the length and the engagement difference, and the thickness of material on the threads. Mine's already been tapped for that, but that's the situation. This is tapped in, and I'm going to run this guy all the way through. So this is actually, I'm sure you can kind of tell, goes pretty much all the way in, so it makes the most contact possible inside of there to provide you the best strength for this lift application. And then, you put your spacer in either on a control arm. That's generally how it goes with the set screw. This will settle right over the arm, this side, right here. Locks right in, no plate, no nothing. And they'll go back up inside here. Rear shock here, what all goes into it. So you're gonna take your nut off, take the stopper off, get all this disassembled. Here we have the factory bump stop. There's supposed to be a washer here, but I lost it apparently, so I don't have it. But there was a washer that goes there regardless. You're gonna push this down some. It's pretty snug, which is good. And this is also the time to change this out if yours is all beat up. We're gonna get a 1-inch aluminum bump in place. You're gonna push it up against the washer that was supposed to be there. Then reassemble everything back together. Put your mount back on, and then reinstall your nut correctly, meaning you want to hold the shaft and tighten the nut, because you don't want to free spin it, you don't want to blow out the seals. Well, when that's together, because I'm missing the nut as well here, then we're going to slide on your spacer. As you can see here, it just fits. You will have to kind of start the hardware and slowly work down the nuts as you tighten this in place. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. So this is a bit of a cutout. It goes an empty hole in the body. Before, it was sealed here with the seal. So you have a couple of options you can get. You can get a universal shock boot to fit in here, or some sort of rubber silicone hose like from auto parts store, like in one of those intake kits, and kind of jam it in place to take up space so you don't have dirt and water, whatever, kind of get inside your body. Alrighty, and that is it. So that is the whole lift kit, everything that goes into it, how it goes together. So yeah, if you want to purchase it, you can either email me at mercrewbuilt@gmail.com. You can send me a DM or Facebook or over Instagram, and we'll go from there. And that being said, Thank you.